Okay, now, we're here for a memorial service, not a funeral. But why does this feel like one right now? If anyone should feel under pressure, it would be me. For some reason, because I was alive when Reverend Kodama was alive, and actually met the man, I was asked to give a sermon today. The problem is, I was 3 years old when he passed away. And I'm sure I've met him a few times. As Reverend Kunko said, he gave me the name of Roy, but I really don't have any solid images or memories of him personally. So when the sensei contacted me again to remind me about giving a sermon for today's service, I was in a panic. So I started asking people. My mother, of course, remembered Kodama Sensei. And my father had worked closely with him because originally my father had come from the Almighty Church in Japan, same church that Kodama Sensei is from, I believe, yes, and to serve in the administrative office. Well, I'll touch upon that in a little bit. But due to what had happened on Maui, I was a bit distracted. So what I have is honestly incomplete. I could not focus on getting as much of my research about Reverend Kodama as I wanted to. But then again, as I jokingly said, this isn't a funeral but a memorial. What I'm supposed to give is not a eulogy, but, well, talk about Kodama Sensei. Now, he's one of the first generations of ministers here in Hawaii, and of course, the founder of the Konko Mission of Honolulu. And from this church, this faith spread throughout Hawaii. My own home church of Wailuku began when our Wailuku founding minister, Reverend Takio Nakai, had entered this faith and studied this faith under Kodama Sensei. Now, she was a single mother with, I believe it was 5 children. And you can imagine how hard it would be in this day and age. Now, imagine that about 60 plus years ago. But through Kodama Sensei's example, she deepened her faith. And Kodama Sensei then said, Nakai-san, go to Maui and propagate. You can imagine she was reluctant at first, but again, because of Kodama Sensei's singular and strong faith, and rubbed off on her too, I would believe, and so she came to Maui. Those of you who were able to join us for our 60+1 anniversary earlier this year, Kodama Sensei's influence helped us make it to today. Now, they began to say, my father had originally come to Hawaii to help Reverend Masayuki Kodama in the administrative office. Now, the plan was for my father to gain training and perhaps some wisdom by working with Reverend Kodama. But then, he was supposed to return to Amagi, marry his fiancée, Hisayo Chigusa, and serve somewhere in Japan. Well, that didn't go as planned. Reverend Nakai, who had diabetes, got worse and worse. Some of the surviving photographs we have of her in one of her last services, she had a lot of trouble seeing already due to diabetes. So one of our oldest members, she's also passed on, but Mrs. Elsie Miyamoto, in the photo, is guiding her so she can offer a tamakushi, as we saw Reverend Konko do as part of the service. For a time, Reverend Katsuo Yasutake, my uncle, served at the Wailuku Church, but it didn't seem to be a good fit. And at this rate, Wailuku was in danger of closing. Reverend Nakai didn't have any assistant ministers or heirs at Wailuku. And, well, Reverend Kodama loathed the idea of simply giving up. And I'm sure he also felt personally invested because it was one of his students that opened the Guadalupe Church. But what to do? I'm sure Reverend Kodama prayed long and hard, seeking Kami-sama's advice and a miracle perhaps. And well, who would happen to be there at Honolulu on assignment from Japan? A young 20-something Kiyotaka Yasutake. Now, my dad's English was not the greatest. He's very much a Fukuoka boy. But again, I like to think because of Reverend Kodama's strong influence and the strong example he showed in the way he lived his faith life, I'm sure my father felt that I want to emulate this man. He's my mentor. And so he agreed, and needless to say, the rest is history. Now, when I was born, my father asked his mentor, Reverend Masayuki Kodama, to give me an English name. Now, the fact that Dad asked Reverend Kodama, who's not a blood relation of ours, to choose a name for his firstborn, first of all, and firstborn son, now those of us who are aware of Japanese culture, that's a big deal. So that tells me just how much respect and how much he really admired Reverend Kodama. And so I was given the name of Roy. Then again, it's also just as likely that Reverend Kodama, with his strong personality, volunteered to name my father's firstborn and wouldn't take no for an answer. Either one seems plausible, but the one I've been told ever since I was a child that Dad asked Kodama Sensei for the name. Now, from stories I've heard from longtime members of Honolulu, Reverend Kodama could be described as intense. I get the impression of a strict, very focused, and very unwavering faith. Also, he was very studied, and due to his vast knowledge and understanding, and the depth of that understanding of Konko Kyo, I can imagine his sermons and teachings were on a completely other level, beyond any we experience today in Hawaii. Now, next to this man, I feel literally like that 3-year-old child, a small child, barely able to stand, let alone walk, in the presence of someone like this incredible Ujiko, Masayuki Kodama. If a new Konko-sama had been born in our time, I think this would have been him. This, again, just from all the stories I had heard. Now, I didn't write it down, but my mother did share a story. See, I'm building up this image, for those of you who've never actually met the man, of a strict, doesn't smile, intense kind of person. But apparently he had a unique sense of humor, too. And of the senses of that time, like Okuno Sensei, for example, Sonoda Sensei, Takahashi Sensei, not very many of them could get his jokes. But my dad did. And according to what my mother told me, my father reported that he didn't think that was such a good thing. So this day, it's going to be a little bit of a puzzle to try to work out why the person who made a joke that you intend for people to laugh, the one person who got it and laughed, he was kind of, Any ideas? But I feel like if I can answer that, unravel that, that will give me an even better idea of this man. He's becoming more and more mysterious the more I learn about him. Because as I said, so many stories of how strict and how focused, and his faith, there's just no question. Kami-sama's way or the highway kind of a guy. And because of that faith, we know of all of his accomplishments. If not, please read this. There's the other book in the back. But because of everything that happened, I had intended to perhaps maybe borrow a couple of the teachings listed here as part of the sermon, but I literally ran out of time. Honestly, I was very close to declining today because of everything going on. But when I remember, this is Kodama Sensei we're talking about. You know, never mind just my name. Never mind the fact that my family Wailuku exists here in Hawaii, because he asked, you know, the guy happened to be around in the administrative office if you could help out and take care of Wailuku Church. To say that my family has a unique bond with the Kodama family is putting it mildly. And because at least I know that much, when Konko Sensei announced as part of the yearly activities each of the churches are having that today would be the 50th year memorial anniversary for the founder of the Konko Mission of Honolulu. I think I actually volunteered, yeah, originally.
You said you really want to attend this service.
That's right. I wanted to attend the service. I didn't say anything of a sermon. But actually, this was a great opportunity for me. Not as a distraction from what's going on, no, far from it. From what I was able to absorb, and it's kind of hard as it is, that these teachings have such a depth in them. But like the one about our goal in Konko Kyo is to be like Konko-sama. It goes a little bit further into that, not just saying, be like Konko-sama. About how we should always feel grateful no matter what happens. And I think that is the one that I will borrow today. This was, which one is this now? I think it's on page 29, Perceiving a Grateful Universe, I think it is. In this one, it mentioned about a Konko believer should give thanks even when resting and sitting on a tree stump. But that alone isn't what I'd like to point out. But there's a list, 1 through 12, that he puts on this page. I think this is the one. I think I'm on the wrong page on now. Kongo Sensei, help me out here, please. Which one was it?
Page 28.
There's something more to this. This is what happens when you let yourself be distracted by things. If I had the mind and a heart of Reverend Kodama, I'm sure that even if I was in the middle of that fire, I would do my duty. I don't want to waste your time, but find it for yourself and you'll see what I mean, I hope. But, you know, no matter what you get faced with, to always have that grateful heart. Kodama Sensei was sent to an intern camp and then sent off to Japan for how many years? 2 years, was it, I believe? In court to read history, 2 years.
8 and a half.
8.5 years, okay. Now, how many men here are married? Oh, come on, I know there's more hands than that. How about were married then? Would that help? Okay, so children? Okay, now, when you were married with kids, and you had to suddenly, for 8.5 years, could you handle it?
Men could handle it.
I can't even imagine for 1 year. No. And you gotta remember, how many children was in total again? 6 children. And Reverend Chikue, his wife, who on top of that had to mind the family business, if you will, the Konko Mission of Honolulu. And And the Konkan Mission of Honolulu stands above a lot of the other churches, so they have to help with those other churches as well. You know, without the kind of faith that this man had, I couldn't see how that would be possible without something going on, without changing the person for the worse. So, what am I really trying to say here today? The more I learn about this man, the more I want to learn, and like my father, do my way, in my own way, emulate Reverend Masayuki Kodama. Because of all the different examples you can point to in life, this would be a very good one for faith life. I really wish I could have remembered more, but there's not a whole lot that I could do 50 years ago. My goodness, I'm that old already. But I should be so lucky when I'm gone to be remembered even half as well as this person here. Thank you everyone for coming today, sharing your prayers, all those good feelings, sending it to Reverend Masayuki Kodama on his 50th memorial anniversary. ありがとうございました。